Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seaview Quantum Network. I'm your presenter, Daniel, and I'm here with producer Claudia Pareco. Our opening song features Sunset Serenade by Cyclone. Albums and singles are available in all music stores and platforms. A moment of your time is one of the most extraordinary gifts we could ever be given. Each week, we create a place for you to rest your heart by providing the platform for peaceable connection to the most gifted lightworkers, intuitives, alternative healers who will surprise you with something different, something outside of what's expected, innovative and unique. Our shows are held on Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern U.S. time and 9 a.m. Pacific time. At any moment to participate on our shows, please call 805-830-8344 and press 1 to talk with the host. Take My Call. At any moment before or during the show, you can opt for Take My Call and jump the long line of callers. We are now following the pay what you can business model. You pay what you feel our services are worth to you. You can send a payment using paypal.me/PURECO and add the amount that you want. To request a show, please write to Claudia Pareco at cview1111@gmail.com or visit our website, cview1111.net. Now, close your eyes and get in touch with the present, the only reality. Feel your body, feel your breath, and let it drift back to the present moment.
Thank you, Danny. Welcome everybody to Seaview 2023. And we are so happy to bring back our study group podcast, Messages from Metatron, with author Devi Nina Bingham. We gather here at Seaview on the third Friday of every other month at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And we welcome everybody to be here with us. Now let's introduce the author of Messages from Metatron, Devi Nina Bingham, but we call her Nina. She's an author, a life coach, a clinical hypnotherapist, and a sound therapist. Welcome to the show, Nina. We are so happy to have you back. 2023, a great year.
Thank you, Claudia. It's great to be back in this new year. And thank you, everybody who is tuning in for the first time or people who are with the show regularly. So I'd like to begin our discussion today of our lesson on transgenderism and same-sex with a quote by the Greek philosopher Aristophanes. So I'm currently in a master's program, and I'm studying right now literature theory, and so we're studying the Greek philosophers. And I came across this and thought, oh, that has to do with what we're talking about today. So this is by the philosopher Aristophanes, who said, quote, "Open your mind before you open your mouth." Open your mind before you open your mouth. And so if you're not transgendered or gay and you'd like to stay, I invite you to stay, but to be a part of our study group as long as you have a genuinely open mind. If your mind is already made up on the subject, meaning you don't care what science has to say about why people are gay, then I urge you not to waste your time because this hour of study is for the open-minded only. Because as long as you think you can't learn anything, we can't teach you anything. So there's my vetting process. Be open to learning something new, or you're wasting your time. So having given that strong admonition, I'd like to turn now to what two authorities on the matter have to say. So the first is an authority in the spiritual realm, and that is the Archangel Metatron, whose book Messages From Metatron we are studying. And the second is science, because we should always be willing to listen to what science has to teach us. And in this case, about the etiology of gender and sexuality. So first we're going to, and in the chapter entitled Transgenderism, Metatron focuses his remarks not so much on same-sex people, but on transgendered people. This is a book of 30 messages, and we're on message 15 right now in this book. So we're exactly one half of the way through in our study. So Metatron begins his argument by stating this. He says, quote, "While you have a body, you are not your body. And aging will prove this to you." So saying to us, you experience the passage of time and watch as your bodies change from the body of a baby, into a teenager, to the body of a young adult, and then into middle age, and then into old age. But on the inside, he says, we don't change very much. I still have the same temperament, if I think about it, as when I was born. And my basic personality has remained intact. It's remained pretty constant. And my preferences have changed, what I like and dislike. My education amount has changed. My opinions have changed over time, over the years, while the essence of me has not changed a lot. And he says that to compare who I am inside with who I see in the mirror. And he says, if you believe that you're only your body, that's not you, is what he's saying. He said, in fact, he said, quote, "It's like believing that the car you're driving is in fact you." So he goes on to explain that our body is just this, he calls it a meat suit. It houses this cosmic being, spiritual being. So to obsess over our looks, and when we can't accept that our bodies are aging, that it can lead to problems. It can lead to becoming obsessed with our looks. So he's saying it's really important to accept that you are not your body only. That a well-adjusted person, sees themselves more than just their body. So he's drawing a distinction here between not liking our bodies because of social pressure and feeling that we're stuck in the wrong body, people who are transgendered. And he's saying those are two different things. But Metatron reminds us you're not what you take yourself to be. So we are so much more than the body. But he says if your outer body is so unacceptable to you that you feel you must change your gender, which is known as sexual gender reassignment, that's okay. That's what he says. And he says, quote, "Those who are gender conflicted should not suffer in silence. Does not want anyone to hide their unhappiness or confusion. Please remember this. God does not want you to hide anything." So he's saying you don't need to hide this from God. And he states that if you feel that you've been given a woman's body and you're a man, or if you were given a man's body and you're a woman, then you have every right to alter your body to match the inner you. So, why is that okay? Why shouldn't trans people suffer in silence? I mean, if it makes other people uncomfortable around them, why should they get to change? And to all of our listeners, I think everybody has felt that they didn't fit in at one time or another in their lives. Let's talk about how it feels to not be like everyone else and how it feels to be different, because everyone has experienced that. And Claudia, let's start with you. You may not have struggled with your gender, but can you recall a time in your life when you felt you didn't fit in, or, how you felt you were different than others, or maybe have you felt like you were the outsider at any time?
Well, we're coming back to that point, Nina, that I guess there's no one on earth that can say they have never, ever felt that way. As I am listening to you, I was reflecting on the fact that pretty much life is an endless opportunity of feeling uncomfortable with something. Like, there are so many things in life that makes me feel uncomfortable myself, or different, or not accepted, or a weirdo in many aspects, because everything that happens outside of me, whenever I want to have an opinion or a judgment, that makes me uncomfortable. It's endless list of things that you eventually have to put on a mirror, reflect, and change the way you see things in order to get into a peaceful resolution of acceptance of others and self. So I don't see how gender is anything away from that. Like, I probably this 2, 3, or 4 years or something like that, I have seen a change everywhere in the world, in the way that transgender or gender is posted on television, videos, cinema, conversation everywhere. It has changed, Nina. It's undeniable. It's like it's right there for us to see that idea that when we were little, and I think of myself when I was in kindergarten probably, and I was told, okay, there are women and there are men, and you are either here or there, and that's it. There's nothing else. Wow, now it's nothing like that ever again, and it will not ever go that way. And for many, and also for myself, it is a liberation of that restrictive position that was part of life before.
Excuse me. Yes, it has. It has changed a tremendous amount, even from when I was a kid. I came out, but not until I was 33 years old. Excuse me. And that's the reason, is that I was told, you must fit into one of these categories, either, male or female, but certainly not gay. That wasn't a category to fit in, when I was growing up. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think things have changed tremendously. For me, when I think when my body began to change, and I started gaining weight, and I went on an antidepressant. I gained so much weight, and I realized at that point that I needed to accept myself just the way I was, gay and overweight. That my body as it was, and I started aging. It's like I'm in my late 50s now, and I'm going to be 59 tomorrow. Tomorrow's my birthday.
Congratulations.
I made it. A year from now, I'll be a big 6-0, and I can say today I have accepted myself as I am, and I do love myself as I am. But it's been a journey. It's been a struggle, and it's been a process. And like many people, especially women, I've struggled to love myself as I am. And I think women especially struggle to accept our aging bodies and, our overweight bodies. So, yeah, there are a lot of things in ourselves that we have to accept along the way. But it's interesting, though, that Metatron in this chapter comes right out and very directly says, to address your gender orientation is a good thing. And so I started thinking, well, why? Why is it a good thing? And I went back to his book, and here's the answer. He says, quote, I assure you, abnormalities, are planned and a part of your life's blueprint to teach humanity. So that's interesting. I never really thought about it like that. So what is being gay or what is being transgender teaching? And he says, quote, that difference does not mean bad. It simply means different. You have been chosen to be a teacher by your example. Wow. I mean, did you ever think of it that way? I never did. He says, quote,
No.
the senseless drive to make everyone the same has caused most of the world's atrocities, cruelty, and often in the name of God. So let's pause here and, discuss this a little, because you may not be transgendered. You may have never wanted to change your gender, but every one of our listeners can relate to, not liking something about their body. And, I think all of our listeners, as you were saying, has felt that they didn't fit in at one time or another. Has not been like everybody else. So for me, there are two times in my life, though, that stand out, that were defining moments in my life. When I came out as a lesbian to my conservative Christian parents and my church at the age of 33. So I've known inside of myself since I was 18 that I had these feelings, but I didn't want to disappoint my parents since they were very religious, and I was afraid to lose my family and my church friends. And so when I finally came out, I came out to a husband and children because I was already married. And, I look back on that, Claudia, and I think, had I listened to myself and not listened to those around me, or not listened to the church I was going to, but listened to myself, that I would have never gotten married in the first place, right? I wouldn't have created that mess. So then I had to come out to my husband and children and family and church, and I did it all at once. And I did lose them. I did. I lost all of them. I lost everything. I lost my husband. I lost my kids because they didn't want to be with a parent who was gay, because up until that point, we had indoctrinated them that it was wrong. I lost my parents. I lost my church and all of my friends at church. I even lost my home in the divorce. So it was incredibly devastating. And sometimes telling the truth will tear up the life that you know. But do I regret coming out and losing it all? Well, the alternative was to keep lying to myself and to the world for the whole of my life, and to be a phony and a fraud. So whatever it cost me, the price I paid was worth it, because for the first time I was free to be who I was and not hide in the shadows anymore. And was it hard losing everything? It was hell. It was hell. But I survived it. And today I can say that what you see is what you get. I am who I am without apology. And Metatron says it in this way. He says, quote, please remember that God wants one thing from you, for you to be yourself. If you are told to hide or suppress the real you, that is decidedly ungodly. God is always for your liberation. God is always wanting you to be freer and freer, happier and happier. But how can you be happy if you're hiding something as fundamental as your sexual or gender orientation? And so, and I wonder if there's anyone who would like to share their experiences at this point or thoughts about transgender or same-sex, or if there's not on our phones yet, Claudia, maybe, do you have any thoughts or any questions about my experience maybe about going through this and how I came out late in life and all that?
Well, yes, I have a comment and a question. I am listening to you, and also I am questioning, and lately, some of the wrong ideas that I had about gender, because you know how nowadays it's not only gays and lesbians and bisexual, there are so many determinations, and I was thinking about that, and I saw this movie, well, it was a TV show, where this woman that was previously married, and she finds herself falling in love with this other woman. So she is married to a man, of course, with children, your case. And then she falls in love with this other woman, and then she questioned her gender. She questioned herself and said, geez, am I lesbian? So in that movie, she even goes to a lesbian bar, and she gets in touch with this other woman who is very much in her same arena. Like, they work in the same kind of job. They have the same sexuality, everything that you would think. If there's a woman like me that I would be attracted, she found that woman, and not the other one that she was in love with, but she did this. And she said, no, I really have no interest in any other woman. So in this movie, the result was that she understood that she was in love with her, this particular person that happened to have a woman's body. But that doesn't make her lesbian or gay or bi or anything, which it just broke all of my my mental schemes, because it was like, oh, of course, you don't have to have a label to fall in love with someone, any other someone, if you don't look at that person as a gender. You can fall in love with anybody, regardless of what's the suit you're having, and that doesn't make you into any category. And it was like, oh, like to me, it helped me understand a little bit how wrong we have been with gender. But did you find that you could also fall in love with a man as well? Or now that in your story, you would definitely never, ever, ever fall in love with a man, or are you open to that even now?
Yeah, good question. I like that question. So I was married to a man for 9 years, and I had 2 kids. I was the soccer mom with a band and everything. And then I came out. And you know what the difference was for me is that people have said, well, did you like having sex with your husband? I mean, why were you married to a man if you realized you were a lesbian? And I think I can't answer for everybody, but my answer for that is just to explain that I didn't mind having sex with men. That's fine, right? I liked that part. What was missing for me was the emotional part. And it's like, how have you ever been sick, like, had flu or cold or something, and you kind of feel hungry, and so you eat maybe some cereal or something when you're sick, and it just doesn't taste right, and it's like you ate and it's just not a full feeling, and it's not satisfying, and you wonder, why did I eat that? It's kind of like that. It's like, for me, I could have sex with men, but it wasn't emotionally satisfying, and that puzzle piece was really missing for me until I fell in love with a woman and had sex for the first time. And then I was like, I describe it like seeing the world before in black and white. And then after that experience, the world was in color, and it's like when all you've ever seen is black and white TV, and you don't know there's color TV, you don't know what you're missing until you watch color TV and you go, wow, this is a lot better. And so that's what it was like for me, Claudia. It wasn't the physical act of it. It was the emotional intimacy for me that was missing, that piece of the puzzle. And I think, in regards to what you were saying earlier about we all, we love to label, but sometimes labels don't fit. That's really true. And I think that's what happens in the LGBTQ community and with all the shades in the middle, that people aren't defining themselves so much by those 5 letters as they are sort of in between the cracks sometimes. That people don't feel they even fit squarely into lesbian or gay. It's like, or even bisexual. Sometimes there's people who feel they're on the outside of those boxes. And so it's like, I see sexuality on a spectrum. So it can go from, white to black, and then there's every color in between, right? There's all the shades in between. It's not white and black. But see, the heterosexual world has wanted to say it's white and black. But people like me didn't fit into that white or black. We were gray somewhere in there. And so what I think I'm seeing in society with all these different labels with people, although, yes, they can be confusing, but if they fit for them, they fit for them. And who am I to say they don't fit for that person? I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what they feel. I don't know what their experiences have been. So for me to invalidate that person's experience isn't correct. And so I just have to accept, okay, you feel you don't fit into gay or lesbian or bisexual, that you want to call yourself queer, you want to call yourself something else. What does that bother me for? It doesn't bother my life in any way, except it's a little confusing to me. So what? I'm a little confused. I mean, aren't we all? So I think that's what we're seeing, is that we're seeing sexuality on a spectrum, Claudia. And I think some people don't feel comfortable with it because it's not a box, right? It's not the box that we were told we were all supposed to fit into. So now let's move on and see what science has to say about whether being gay or being transgender is a choice, or are we born this way, like Lady Gaga said in her song. So let's see what science says, okay? So there's a field of research known as sexual orientation research. Sexual orientation research. I didn't even know that was a thing. But it is, that endeavors to explain the etiology or the causes of gayness. So all geneticists know that no human behaviors are determined by a single gene, okay? All these type of different behaviors that human beings have, we can't say, oh, well, one gene, let's say the outgoing gene or the the timid gene or the confident gene, controls behavior. No. It's a combination of what they call nature and nurture. You might have heard that phrase, nature and nurture. So nature means genetics. Okay? Nature stands for genetics, and nurture means our environment. Okay, the way we're brought up, nurtured. And sexual orientation is no different. Okay, so it's not going to be controlled by a single gene. It's just not. It doesn't work that way. So current studies say that genes that we inherit for being gay, now this is the latest research, and I spent hours looking at this week. Current studies say that genes we inherit for being gay are between 30 and 40%. Account for 30 to 40% of our behavior. Okay, almost half. That means 60 to 70% of gayness, if you want to put it that way, is determined by our environment. So that's the latest. And what does this mean? What does this mean? Genetics raises the chance of you being gay. That's what it means. So if you have these genes, you have a 30 to 40% chance more than the heterosexual that you'll turn out gay. Now, this is a pretty hefty percentage. So genetics raises the chances of you being gay, but there's also something non-genetic going on here, right? There's other studies that have shown differences in gay men's brains and straight men's brains when the brains were examined post-mortem. So they're finding not only is there genes involved with this, but neurologically with the brain, straight men and gay men's brains, when they examined them after death, post-mortem, were different in some areas of the brain. And guess what areas those were? They were areas that control sexuality. And there are studies also to show hormonal differences. Hormones in utero, meaning they're the testosterone genes, or testosterone levels, or what's called the sex hormone levels, are different in males who grow up to be gay. So, what that means is when hormone levels were compared from before they were born, they found that gay men's hormones and straight men's hormones were different. And so these stats I'm quoting now right now are from the Boston Globe and Newsweek. And then in 2019, here's I think the most convincing thing about it. In 2019, the largest genetic study ever conducted on the issue concluded that, quote, there is no such thing as a single gay gene. Instead, a person's attraction to the same sex is shaped by a mix of genetic and environmental influences. Okay, a mix. So are you born this way? The answer is partially yes. Genetically, it means you're predisposed. So if I have inherited these genes, I am 30 to 40% more likely, I'm genetically predisposed to being gay. Now, those are the stats that I found on being gay. What about being transgender? So in 2018, scientists discovered a link between genes and being transgender. And this, I think, is a very convincing study. It's the Australian study that examined 380 transgender women. 380 women, they found 4 genes involved in processing sex hormones like testosterone that were overrepresented in the gay women. So what does that mean? It means that trans women had more hormones, 4 genes, not hormones, had 4 genes more than of the straight women. So they had 4 male sexual kind of genes than the straight women did. Okay, so that's genetics. 4 genes isolated as causing transgender women to be different. To me, that's convincing genetic evidence. So why is this important? Why did I spend hours looking at these statistics? Because, here's why. A 2017 report found that 75% of trans between the ages of 14 and 25 years of age experienced discrimination on a regular basis, anxiety because of that discrimination, and depression. And that, listen to this statistic, and that half of all trans young people committed suicide. That's tragic. Half of all trans young people committed suicide. And unnecessarily, because now we have scientific evidence to prove that both being gay and transgendered is not just a choice. Now we know with scientific certainty that we are born this way. So the problem is, even with convincing research studies like this, we live in an age of science deniers. We like to think that we're such a progressive society. Well, the truth is that 86% of Americans say they trust science, which means that only 14% don't believe in science. 14% of Americans don't believe in science. However, among elected officials, listen to this, Claudia, this is a whopper. Among elected officials, only 35% trusted scientists. That means 65% of elected officials in the government right now do not trust science. And that is concerning because elected officials influence how people vote. So if science-denying politicians can influence voters and can influence community religious leaders that science isn't real, then what we'll see is a rise in anti-science rhetoric. And that is concerning because laws not predicated on the fact has never worked out well for our species. The law based on religion and not science has always brought us to a dark age. So the moral of the story, I believe, is be careful who you vote for and who you listen to. So let's get back now to the Archangel Metatron's advice, which happens to agree with science, and that's advice we can listen to. So he tells us, quote, "You are not your body, your age, or your nationality. You are not even your gender. You are none of these things. If you are none of these things, who are you?" And then he tells us who we are. I really like this passage. Quote, "You are timeless. You are infinite. You are indestructible." He's talking about the soul, isn't he? Not the body, the soul. "You are all loving and completely accepting. You are without fear. You are an aspect of God. And you should remind yourself of these truths on a regular basis. I am timeless. I am infinite. I am indestructible. I am all-loving and completely accepting. I am without fear. I am an aspect of God. Yet you look in the mirror and exclaim, 'This is God?' You have a body, but you are not your body. Stop identifying people's worth by the body or the lifestyle they lead. Stop looking on the outside. Try to see past it." And that's really the heart of this message from Metatron, that humans, we can be so small-minded and base our opinions on what we've been told versus what the truth is. And we've got to try and accept when people are different from us, because different doesn't mean bad. Metatron says, quote, it's better to say we are all equal and we are all children of the same God. So, Claudia, let me ask you, why do you think transgender and same-sex people are still misunderstood? Because anybody, just like I did, can go on the internet and do research and find this scientific research, the same stuff that I found. So if we all have access to the internet, we all have access to the same information, why is it then that these folks, transgenders and same-sex people, are still misunderstood, do you think?
You know, I truly believe that we see the courage that people have when they are different from whatever paradigm we have, and someone that is courageous enough to come to this life, to be something that is apart from that, it scares you because you cannot comprehend. You can truly do not comprehend how they can be fine like that. And it makes you question yourself in many ways, in areas that you don't want to see within you. And when someone presents out there, but you are denying in here, it scares you. And I think the human reaction is to try to avoid, destroy, lock out of the way that which is so eminent, because it's you.
Mm.
And I want to assure Nina that we all have those feelings. And in a part of you, somewhere in your story, you have had a feeling that you might not be agreeing to because society says no. And probably we all have had, and we all have had that doubt. And, you know, when someone is courageous to say, this is who I am and I don't care, it scares you.
Mm. Wow, what a great answer. That's really vulnerable of you to say, and I appreciate you saying that. I think you're right. When people show great courage, especially to me as a same-sex person, especially someone who is transgender, to me, I can't imagine anything that would be more difficult than having to do that. But when you see that kind of courage, it's amazing. And at the same time, it can be a little intimidating, you know, that people can be this courageous. But in this message, Metatron explains that souls come into this world with gender identity issues, but this isn't a mistake. It's not a mistake of nature. And he says it can look like a mistake, but God doesn't make mistakes. And instead, that person's life is a lesson for everyone about the necessity of unconditional acceptance. Really, it's about love. He's saying they're showing us how to love beyond the exterior. And the lesson seems to be, we are not the body, we are the soul. Not the body that determines gender, the soul determines gender before it even incarnates in a body. So if a person is trans, it's not a mistake. And Metatron said, quote, I assure you, you are not a mistake. Instead, you are something much grander than you can realize. You are a liberator. You are liberating people's thinking. You are helping others to understand that they are not, that they do not yet comprehend the soul. And you are helping them see that not all people fit into strictly prescribed boxes. And he goes on to say, you are a savior, saving humanity from ignorance by being more than a body. You are the bravest of souls. Your courage is renowned on the other side. You've shown what bravery looks like by defying the rules that were created out of an ignorant and elementary understanding of what it is to be human. He's saying being human has nothing to do with your gender or what you look like. You're making everyone look hard at how to define what it is to be a human and what it is to be a man or a woman. And for that, the world owes you a debt of gratitude. A debt of gratitude And you are heroes to us on the other side. Just what you were saying, Claudia. Courage.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I remember channeling this part of the book, and I remember crying. And it kind of puts a lump in my throat now, because seeing a same-sex and trans person through his eyes was a completely novel experience for me. I saw them as these incredible, gutsy heroes who chose to come here and take a body ill-suited to them so that they could demonstrate to us, a living demonstration, that we are not the body, we are really the soul hidden in a body, and sometimes the wrong gendered body, to prove a point. You know, and to see them through these glasses really change forever how I see it. So he calls them heroes. So, Claudia, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, you know, I'm thinking right now and wondering, you know how life on Earth is about polarity. Everything here on Earth is black or white, and it was designed this way. And I believe that we were part of that design, that we are part of the creation. So Earth, to me, was created to be able to live, to live a world where polarity was the theme. Polarity, black and white, woman and men. Everything is polarity here. Hate, love, everything. And in all those aspects, we are here to remind us that this is just a label, and things, in all things that we have polarity with, is not real. But I was wondering, Nina, do you think other worlds are created different with different things, and maybe in other worlds they don't even have genders in there because that's not the thing for that world to experience, and this is only something here. And when we created this polarity on Earth, we did it as abrupt as it could be. So it would be the experience of a lifetime. Like, okay, if we're going to have a life of polarity, let's make it real. And I guess for the soul, when you are a soul, this is like, yay, let's experience that. That's different. And you come here and I do, whoops, what did I put myself into? Because it's amazing that in every aspect of life, we are such wrong in thinking all the time that this is true and this is false and that we know it all. And then you bring things like that, like this, like gender. Now gender is disappearing. In my mind, it's disappearing from even the vocabulary. And it's like, wow, one of the concepts that was so predominant in life on Earth is disappearing little by little. It hurts to disappear. And that's where heroes like transgender and same-sex and all of those people that come with that, those are the heroes because they are bringing that up to disrupt whatever it was there. And the same in other areas of polarism here. But I'm wondering what goes on in other worlds, and I don't know. I was just wondering on that. Have you thought about those things?
No, I've never really thought about it. It's an interesting question to entertain. I think it would be a good thing. I think it would bring peace if we could get rid of sexism and, get rid of genderism. I personally think it would probably help us to all get along a lot better if we just saw each other as souls and not, black or white-skinned or all these categories we make, all these divides we build between each other is just causing issues. So I think what you're saying is as society develops, we're going to see, these kind of issues which divide us, are starting to shrink. And I wouldn't mind if it shrank and blew away, personally. It'd be great. But, you know, I'm thinking every gay and trans person have encountered from one time or another. You know, you're going to hear some kind of funny questions or comments. And just before the show today, I had that thought, and I scribbled down some comments and questions that I've gotten along the way. Maybe I'll close today with these. They're just kind of funny, but true. So one question I've had is if you've had sex with someone of the opposite sex. We kind of talked about this earlier. What didn't you like about it? You know, I've had people ask me that, and I I kind of said I did enjoy it. That's why I was married. But what I was missing was the proper feelings that should have gone along with it. But you don't know that you're missing those things until you've had it. You know, it's like, how do you know that, how do you know that a hamburger's good, but you don't know it's not as good as a prime rib steak, you know?
You have to try them both.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing for me. So it wasn't that I really understood that I was missing the proper feelings until I had that experience. Another question that I have been asked is, have you ever wished you were straight? And I think you could ask probably any trans person, and they're going to give you the same answer, and that's all the time. So given a choice, because I had religious parents, my life would have been way easier, especially when I was younger. Because when you're younger, you really don't want to stand out. You really don't want to be different from your friends. But, you know, now that I'm older and I have come out, I am thankful now that I came out. Let's see, another question. Well, this is not a question. This is more like a comment that I've heard is, well, you know, maybe this is just a phase. Maybe this is just a phase. I heard that first from my mom when I came out to her, which doesn't really make sense because if you're older like me, I was 33 when I came out, I've had a lot of time to think about it. I mean, from the time I was 18 years old, I thought about it every single day. So that's 13 years that I was having these feelings, but hid it. And so if you've been hiding something for 13 years, you finally get up enough courage to tell everyone, that's not a phase. It's not a phase, it's a major revelation. So most people don't wake up one morning and say, I think I'll tell people that I'm gay today. Usually the decision that it's taken them a lot of thoughtful consideration to make that decision. And, you know, a fair amount or a lot of anxiety to reach that decision. So, no, it's usually not a phase. Another question or comment I've heard more than once was from guys who would meet me and find out that I'm gay, and then it's so funny to watch guys, they back up several feet, you know, and they back up from you and they say, you can't be gay, you don't look gay. Or this one, they say, you just haven't met the right guy yet. And I've heard that many times. So let's turn this around. So Claudia, since you're straight, if I met you and I said, oh, Claudia, you're only straight because you haven't met the right woman yet, what would you think about that?
Before I would have laughed, probably. Today, I don't know. I have changed in that matter. I think I could love a woman, but I don't know if that would make me gay. I could love a woman because of who she is. I don't know. My concern probably would be if I would love that person enough to have sex, if I would feel confident enough in myself. But the same would go with a man, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know. But I don't see it as bad. I don't see it as something horrendous that could happen to me, no.
Yeah, I what I hear you saying, Claudia, is that you're not thinking in terms of black and white as much anymore.
Yeah, I changed that. That is not the way that I think anymore. I think I would be open, but I would be reserved on. I don't know if I would be. I would have it. I don't know, but I would be open, right, depending on the woman.
Great. You just have to try the steak first.
Yeah, but I hear you. It's varying. I remember when I was I was about 16, 17, and I was hanging on with this Susanna, which I really like her friendship. I really, really enjoy being with her. And I remember one time my mother said to me, "But don't you see this woman is courting you?" And I'm like, I was oblivious to the fact, and I don't even know if that was true or not. But it was like I could not even understand why my mother would say something like that, because I could not see it. She was just my friend. Now, I truly don't know if she had any other intentions. I don't know if she was or not lesbian. I never knew. So I don't know if I would be. I would see that. It's fun.
Yeah. I think being gay is an experiential thing. I don't think I've ever talked to a gay person who said to me, "Oh, I was reading a magazine and I saw a picture of two women together and decided I was gay." It doesn't work out.
So you met somebody and you feel the attraction, correct?
Yeah, it's usually experiential. You have an experience of some sort. And then, it goes deeper, and then you find yourself, having relations with the person, and then you start to develop feelings. So, I think it happens just like it happens with heterosexual people in the exact same way. So it's experiential. You're not going to look at a guy and say, well, I fell in love with him because he was playing football on the field. I mean, you got to know him, and that's how you fell in love. Here's another question I get. Isn't it bad for kids to see gayness because they might turn gay? I've heard people say that. And the only answer I had to that is it's not a disease that you can catch. So if a child is predisposed to being same-sex or transgender, seeing me being gay or you being straight isn't going to persuade them. It's genetics that will persuade them and their environment. And how do we know that? Because we just learned that in science class. We learned that in Nina's science class today. So, I don't think kids seeing people be gay is going to change them in any way. And I've also heard people say, well, don't you think flaunting your gayness is wrong, like holding hands in public is wrong? And I'd ask the same of straight people. It's like, do you feel bad holding hands in public with your partner? No. Then why should I feel bad about it? You don't hold hands to flaunt your love. You hold hands as a sign of affection, not because you're flaunting it. Yeah. And then one time I had a funny question. They said, what's the gayest thing you've ever done? I don't know, Claudia. What's the straightest thing you've ever done?
Yeah, being me. I would say it's just being me. I don't. Yeah, that's a funny question.
Yeah, it's a funny question. But it's like if you turn these questions around, and make them ask the straight people the same questions, they get these blank looks on their faces. Have you been straight all your life?
It makes no sense to question that one. Yeah, you're right. When you turn it around, it's like, who asked that? That's so dumb.
Yeah, if I were to ask you, Claudia, have you been straight all your life? How do you answer that?
I guess yes. Until I act out on that, probably. But yeah, so far, yes. I don't want to put myself into one category anymore, Nina. I learned my lesson. It's like, no, okay, so far I am, but I don't want to say that this is going to be forever, because probably I'm still having some years to live, and if the opportunity comes, why not?
Well, I think it's great. And I applaud you, that you're not thinking of things in black or white terms, ultimatums anymore. I think that's great. And I think that shows a lot of growth, for anybody that's willing to think like that, who can think a little gray or think a little in the middle. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but I want to, again, reinforce what you said. I want to thank everybody out there that is different in any way and that they have shown us, people that we thought we have it figured out, that it's okay to be different, and the courage and the heroes that have shown us that as a maybe straight person to a non, thank you so much.
That's right. Thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody for being open-minded, for spending your hour with us, and I hope it has been enlightening and illuminating for you. And I invite you to join us for our next study group on the topic of soulmates. Soulmates. We're going to discover what a soulmate is, why we have them, how many soulmates we have in a lifetime, and so much more. So that will be on Friday, March 17th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time here on Seaview. If you'd like to see my other angel books, please go to my blog. That's ninabingham.blogspot.com, or you can find me, Nina Bingham, on Amazon.com. And so until next time, remember that different isn't bad. Different is just different. Okay, so long.
And thank you for that. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.